weeks ago, Capcom finally released its hotly anticipated game Street Fighter V. Now, people were expecting the big epic day one battles to be between Ryu and M. Bison. However, they ended up being between the players and the servers. And boy, oh boy, did the servers lose out on this one. Heck, even right now, a week after the game was released, we're still seeing issues where players aren't getting their ranked matches being recorded. And that's totally the excuse I'm using to justify the complete lack of wins on my account. No, I totally won. It was the bugs. Yeah, I totally beat that guy with that fatality? But this wasn't even the only game in February to come out slightly broken. XCOM 2 launched with a swath of performance issues. People had to get creative with their workarounds.
If we now press the cap locks button, once this loading screen pops up, it's gonna
press it
quicker. Oh my, okay, so it looks like it's frozen, which isn't great. And then
oh my god.
Yes, Eurogamer found that you could significantly cut the loading times on the mission results screen just by pressing the caps lock key. This is the third time in recorded history that something good has come out of all caps yelling. Right after 1983 with the release of Billy Idol's single Rebel Yell, and in 2004 when Derek managed to finally land a date at the nightclub after shouting sweet nothings into Stacy's ear all night. Unfortunately, she had to cancel that date after a series of burst eardrums. Now, these two games follow a long, bloody trail of games that launched in some form of disarray. SimCity has disabled cheater speed due to continuing online issues. Oh god! Ah, god, get away! Get away! Get away! Diablo 3 has finally been released, however, it wasn't the cleanest of launch windows. Wait, why are we going back to 2009? New Game Plus didn't go to air until 2012. Now, as history has taught us, there are two types of launch failures. First are the broken game servers brought upon by a massive influx of players. Now, much like Justin Bieber's career, these servers face an extreme amount of public scrutiny and pressure and then eventually collapse under their own weight. However, these are typically temporary and the games go on to thrive and prosper, much like Justin Bieber's career. In some of these cases, it is sincere developer naivete. Just look at the success of Rocket League. But what about the big AAA developers? These guys should have on them all the social media metrics, all the pre-sales data, all the World Cup predicting octopi, so they should know or have a reasonable guess about how many players will be playing their game on day one. But keep this in mind. Servers are expensive, especially when they're going to just be dumped 2 weeks after the game's release because players move on to the next big title. This doesn't necessarily excuse day one failures, but at the same time, some developers might find it better to divert these funds towards hiring some more testers to try and iron out the ugly bugs, or to hiring some artists so that they can put in some really good looking bugs. And by the way, I now have Sexy Cockroach in my search history and I humbly accept my entrance onto various government lists. Which brings me to the other type of launch failure, that is the game that was pushed out way too early. These go beyond mere server issues. These games are either unfinished or just broken at their core. Now previously we just took these games as quaint little oddities such as the grammar crimes that were committed by Big Rig's Your Winner. Now, what do these games have in common? They were installments in multi-million-dollar game franchises and they had to be released on a specific date because the shareholders demanded their pound of flesh this financial quarter, because the transmedia comic books had already been commissioned, and because the bottles of branded Mountain Dew were already sitting on the shelves. Fun little aside, Mountain Dew is now associated alongside boner pills and nasal sprays as the product most associated with premature releases. So, what can we do as gamers about all of this? Outrage isn't really a solution here. There's enough of that on the internet. Save your all caps for XCOM 2 or your local Billy Idol karaoke night. Personally, I think a bit of patience is prudent here. Don't necessarily rush out to buy that game on day one unless you know from everyone else that the game is working as intended. Unless that is, you really like flesh mods. Oh god, I'm still not used to that. And that is everything that has happened in the world, ever.